Chino chekutanga uchimuka mangwanani na mataku na ishetenzi wako. Chino chekutanga uchimuka mangwanani na mataku na ishetenzi wako. Ndiye anosiwa kwese kwa unoenda, anotipa jose, anotiriritira. Ndiye anosiwa kwese kwa unoenda, anotipa jose, anotiriritira. Pakufarane pakusuwa mujoti zebunyika, ishetenzi wedu mutizire ngoni. Pakufarane pakusuwa mujoti zebunyika, ishetenzi wedu mutizire ngoni. Ndiye anosiwa kwese kwa unoenda, anotipa jose, anotiriritira. Ndiye anosiwa kwese kwa unoenda, anotipa jose, anotiriritira. Jeso tichiparara tingatorwa nemuwengi mirayo nesuishe vanobata mabasa erino pasi vachaparadzwa kana Jesu ouya vanobata mabasa erino pasi Jesu ouya amutisiye Jesu tichiparara tingatorwa nemuwengi mirayo nesu. guide me, oh, thou great Jehovah, pilgrims through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Guide me, oh, thou great Jehovah, pilgrims through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Feed me till I want no more. Bread of heaven, bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Feed me till I want no more. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole. Hymn 63. Doera senyi moyo maropa Jesu eka dinote nangenyiwo maropa Jesu eka giwo Manera akanaka sangano raMwari. Toda kutenda tinokuchingamidzai program yemanhero ano. Toda kutenda ne music yatiri kuwana kubva kuThe Rock. Mwari vakuitire zvakanaka. Tinochingamidza audience iri kutiona online. Mwari vakukomborerei, vakuitire zvakanaka. Pamanhero ano ingotarisawo munhu ari padhuze newe semazuva ose, ungombowe Colgate Smile. Ngosekerawo munhu ari padhuze newe, zvine utano izvozvo, Colgate Smile. Nice. Taura naye, iti neighbor. Neighbor. Ita zvine simba mbijana. Neighbor. Neighbor. You my neighbor. You my neighbor. Our discovery will be our recovery. Nezuro after service nanas ndakaunganirwa nevanhu. Zvikadzi munhu waMwari chirungu chenyu chiri dhipi. Saka raMwari rinoti kuti yes, munozonditsvaga ndinotsanangura zvachinoreva. Toda kutenda panguva ino tichasimudza Sister Fadzai vaiva tipe our opening prayer.
Ngatinamatei kuna baba edu ari kumusha kumusoro kudenga. Jehovha teuya kwamuri mukati medzinonguva dzemanheru. Tokutendai nechipo chesabata. Matitendera kuti tipinde musabata renyu tiri vanopona. Chititungamirira Jehovha kuti zvose zvatichaita dai zvingakudza zita renyu. Toisawo presenter wanhasi mukati maoko enyu. Zvavachataura dai zvingatibatsira tigokwanisa kuzviapply mukati meupenyu hwedu. Even vanotiona tabuda tadzokera kwatinogara vagoona mbiri yenyu kuburikidza nemararamiro atinenge tichiita. Tozviisa zvese mukati maoko enyu. Tokunamatai kubva zvino nokusingaperi. Amen.
Tinotenda. I think nas tine different platform. Presenter wedu ndi Dr. Machando. Ndo vachataura kwatiri zuva ranhasi. Sangano raMwari rinoti kudii kuvachingamidza. Yes, Dr. Bluffhill SDA Church, kozvino yanguva yenyu.
Happy Sabbath, Church. I'm excited to be here. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Ndinemakore 50, ndakusita 51. Naika, I've been married to be 31 years this year. I have 3 children. One is married, second name Kwasha. And so I feel I am qualified to be talking to you today. Okay? So I'm a clinical psychologist, and my work is in the negative, it's to repair damaged lives, right? But we don't only repair damaged lives. In the positive, we want to prevent damage. But not only that, we want to make sure that a person lives their life to the full. Okay? So I'm happy to be talking to you because I've worked in public institutions with severe mental health patients, severe broken relationships, severe broken lives, seen suicide, seen violence, seen a lot of trauma. But I get this excitement because I know that these things can be treated, these things can be resolved, and what's more, you can actually prevent and live a happy life. Okay? So that's why I'm excited to be talking to you about this, to address the difficult questions. So I am going to try and address some of the questions that I got. Hope we'll be able to get through a lot of them. So one of the questions reads, how do I deal with an immature husband? Someone who never talks about the future, never has goals, and he takes everything like a joke. Okay? You can laugh if you are not in this person's situation. But you can imagine if you've got someone who is taking life as a joke, but fees need to be paid. Children need to get dressed. You need to put food on the table. When you try to address, the person just laughs it off, you know. It's not funny. Other people's lives are progressing. They are building houses. They are sending their children to good schools. They've got enough to eat. And your husband is loitering around, making fun of life. So it's not funny, isn't it? So as we address these questions, I want you to remember that we got them from people sitting in this church. And you could actually be the husband. So today, instead of taking this as a joke, either you are in here or you're out there, and all those represented by this person, please pay attention and make sure that you are addressing this. I'm happy to say that over the years, we've seen relationships really improve because of family life seminars. So I would like to acknowledge Bluffhill Church for organizing this, and most importantly, for airing it out so that other people who don't have access can also learn. Okay, so I have a few questions to couples. So it could be a woman who's not taking life seriously. We do get that a lot, where some women, because they are married, they think they have arrived. And their job is to stay in the kitchen, bear children, go to the salon and paint their nails. Or we have that man who continues to behave like a boy, and sometimes parents let their children continue to be children. He is old, he has a family, but maybe the mother keeps chipping in, paying rent, paying bills, giving him their car to drive, putting fuel, and this man is not maturing to start taking responsibilities. So if you are an enabling parent or an enabling relative, you want to know that you are actually causing more damage. What will happen if you are not there? So the questions that I have now to the spouse who is complaining, whether you are a male or you are a female, was this person like this before while you were courting? If they were, it's unfortunate that we want to address this now, a little too late. You should have opened your eyes twice when you're dating. Hint, hint to the youth. When you are speaking to your partner, do they indicate that they have got a drive in life? There are some people who don't even have a passport. You know, they want to go to heaven, but they don't even have a passport to go to Botswana. No driving license. So you're just wondering what plans this person has. So these are some of the telltale signs that you need to start thinking about. Does this person have capacity? And we see capacity in how this person has been carrying on. How do they take care of the people in their lives? If it's a man, how much does he respect his father, his mother, his parents, his siblings? How much contribution are they making in their setting? If this person doesn't have capacity, so sometimes people have capacity, but maybe they've been looked down upon, maybe they were trying to hustle, and the woman or the other spouse, because this can be a man, it can be a woman, maybe they are trying to sell second-hand clothes, they are trying to cross the border to do stuff, but they get a lot of discouragement. Sometimes people give up and they say, okay, if you are smart, then do it. So you want to check whether you have also not contributed in disabling this person. Then also check around the capacity for this person. How much education does the person have? Do they have any skills? Do they have any qualification? Are they good at anything? It could be just talking, because you can make a lot of money from talking. Trevor Noah is making a lot of money right now, isn't it? So what skills does this person have? The other challenge that we usually find in spouses and even in parents is that we are narrow-minded to think that success comes because of A's. I want to tell you that some of the challenges that we actually come across are coming from your A-star students, because they don't have capacity to handle failure, they can't hustle, they don't know problem-solving skills, you know? So having A's does not necessarily mean that you are going to be successful, okay? So having explored all that, perhaps you could then try and figure out how you can help this person, check who he's spending time with, because usually we are the company that we keep. If you are sticking around failures, your thinking will also be narrowed. Make sure that you are sticking around people who have bigger dreams than you. Yeah, so those are some of the things that you can do for this person. Then the next question is someone who is saying, ndakarora nemukadzi wangu some years back, and so we got married with my wife some years back, and I found that she was not a virgin, and so this issue bothers me every day to know the person who deflowered her. So I've got a number of responses to people who are in relationships. You're already married and you are stuck to, why is she not a virgin? Why was she not a virgin? What happened to her? You are stuck there. I've got a number of responses. Number one, situations will differ as to why a person is not a virgin. My quick question though to this person is, were you a virgin yourself when you got married? Because a lot of men go around deflowering, you know, girls waiting to marry a virgin, but they have also spoiled a lot of girls on the way. Number one. Number two, are you faithful in this relationship? Because perhaps you are just worried about the loss of virginity that happened to this person, which could be once, or it could be, we don't know what happened, but you have also not been unfaithful, you've been unfaithful, and it feels as if the act of losing virginity is bigger than you also sleeping around. To our youth, I want to say, we keep getting this question. I'm quite sure you've heard about this over and over and over and over. For those who still have their virginity, whether you are a male or you are a female, because virginity is important for both males and females. If we are going to demand of it from the ladies, it should also be the same to the men. This is a hint, or we encourage you to preserve yourself, because if you make decisions that are irreversible, it will be very difficult. And for those people who are crazy about marrying a perfect person, hopefully that you are perfect yourself, we encourage you to have discussions around this towards your marriage, so that you are clear as you are getting in. I've had terrible experiences about virginity. Before I started doing this work, I used to think that, you know, having learned at an Adventist school where the matron tells you, anytime you can be like me, losing your virginity, but I can never be like you. It is your passport into marriage. You know, when you hear these talks, which are good, you tend to idolize virginity, until I learned that actually the people who lose virginity, usually they are the innocent ones. Usually they are those who are naive, who don't know alternative ways of doing it. Several times with different people, and still maintaining that hymen, right? There are a lot of people who have actually committed sin, sexual sin in different forms, anal sex, oral sex, etc., etc., and they still maintain that so that they appear holy, holy. So you might actually be not appreciating the wife that you have when she may actually be, if we were to compare holiness, because perhaps, so that takes me to another point. I'll tell you, I've worked with so many people who were traumatized, who lost their virginity from very young ages. I remember in one day, I always talk about this because it traumatized me as well. I was, after seeing two women at a public institution, one of them had been raped by a father and had a child from the father. And for all these years, she had kept it to herself. A lot of women keep these things to themselves. And went to a private institution, some rehabilitation center, saw two women there who had been raped, one by dad's older brother, another one. So we meet this a lot. Dad's older brother, mom's brother, own dad, brother even sometimes, or dad's father. You get these shocking things. Your father is taking care of someone in their homestead, a friend, to set him up, and he abuses the girl child there, So some of these people have said, please share my story. I want to make sure that a lot of women benefit, or that we protect the girl child. So this young lady abused by dad's friend from Form 2, it was happening right in their homestead. Sometimes parents are sitting out there and he drags her to the bedroom, As you listen to this, a lot of these women are so traumatized, they've never had anyone to share this story with, because we are talking about virginity and how if you are not a virgin, you are dirty, you never get married. It's when you come across these questions, you've been violated, and you hear someone who's been married 5 years and they are still lamenting virginity, which we don't even know the circumstances that this person lost that hymen from, So it's when you get these and you realize you can't share your story with the next person. You can't share your story with your boyfriend. You don't know what to do. So these women, 6 women in one day, 43 never married, 39 never married. They are very accomplished in their professions, but they struggle to relate, to have relationships. I can't, I am scared of being touched. I freeze. I feel dirty. I feel I'm not enough. Young, innocent people who have been violated by men, and it's these men who will in turn demand to marry virgins. So when you have an appreciation of the sad realities that happen around how people lose their virginity, you will think twice about how you perceive a person who has lost their virginity. Some people have made mistakes. We have all made mistakes. Your mistake may not have lost your virginity, but who hasn't made a mistake in their life? We are fortunate that the Lord forgives, and He says, I erase everything as if it was written in sand. And you want also to remember that if this person lost their virginity because they sinned, it's a sin against God. They probably moved on with their lives. God is happy with them. He sees that person as they never lost their virginity. If they are truly repentant, and God says, if you confess your sins, I will cleanse you from all unrighteousness. So in God's eyes, this person is perfect, and you are the one who is left with a problem. So some people have been raped, some people have been tricked into, some people's drinks have been spiked. We've read about all these things. and you wonder what happens fast forward into their lives. Then I also want to point you to the story of Adam and Eve. How many trees? I love talking about this because I see that it was unfortunately the beginning of sin, but it is also, if we manage to reframe this, it can also be a solution to most of our problems. So let's go back to the Garden of Eden. God gave instruction to his two children, Adam and Eve. How many trees did they have access to? Let's estimate in numbers. How many? This was before drought, before floods. Roughly, in what numbers do you think they were? Millions, right? And how many trees did they not have access to? One. You know what the devil does? He came to Adam and Eve and told them that one tree that they didn't have, you get it? So that's what he said to Adam and Eve. That one tree that you don't have, it's what matters, because it's going to make you wise, it's going to make you like the gods. And they immediately became blinded to the millions of trees that they had access to. That's what the devil is doing to us right now. Your spouse may be falling short on one thing. So in this case, it would be virginity. Assuming that you are virgin, I continue to repeat this. In some cases, it could be one or two things that your partner doesn't have. None of us is a perfect partner, like none of us. If we are not careful, the devil steals the joy away from us, and we focus on that one thing and not celebrate the millions of things that are in our lives. This woman, you've stayed with her for 5 years, you probably have beautiful children, she's probably taking good care of these children, she's probably a good cook, a good companion, she could be smart, hardworking, and even beautiful, you know. She would be a lot of things, but you become blinded because the devil makes you focus on that one thing. Since you're already in this relationship and you've stayed 5 years, you've stayed 13 years, you've stayed the many years that you've stayed, it is my prayer that the Lord opens your eyes to the many facets that your wife has, and you are able to cherish a beautiful relationship that you can actually enjoy. Especially if you met this person as they are, they didn't cheat on you. There are a lot of people who've been married virgins who are cheating right now, you know, causing a lot of trouble in these relationships. So don't think that virginity is the only thing, lest you become blinded as Adam and Eve were blinded. The next question says, most aches in marriages, contributing approximately above 60%, emanate from lost love, mainly because the man is gone physically or emotionally. So I will combine this with another question that says, why is it that a lot of Adventist men are involved in extramarital affairs? So I'm going to respond to this this way. Usually we say a lot of Adventist men, and I'm wondering whether someone has actually done a scientific research to establish that a lot of Adventist men, right? I am not aware of any statistics that say that. We do have Adventist men who are unfaithful, the way we have other religions, men who are unfaithful, and even men who are not, who don't go to churches, right? So you need to step back and just put things into perspective. And while we say that, we do know that a lot of people are involved in extramarital affairs, and I think it is on the rise, because of many things. To begin with, there is more access to sexual material because of technology, and also there is also a lot of discoveries. The many cases that we come across, it's telephone messages, telephone conversations, images on electronic gadgets. The one thing that I have never understood is why people continue doing the same thing and not, expecting to get caught. It's the SMS messages, it's the WhatsApp messages, it's the video clips, the images. In Shona, our elders would say, "Nemanyanga richa say, hariputirwe." Kuma salad, you can't wrap, something with horns. You can't wrap it, and I'm imagining maybe a newspaper. And I want to tell you, it can go on for 10 years, 11 years, 14. For some reason, it always comes out. It always does. And it comes out in the most, unimaginable situations. And we find that families get broken, relationships get broken at whatever age. So, hint, hint, for those people who are doing it and they think they are smart, I don't know how smart you can be. For some reason, the devil exposes you. Then, so what do we do? Because people are unfaithful. So this now is no longer just men. Even women have, we've come across women who are unfaithful. It's out there in the social media. Let me start by addressing men. What do we usually say if a woman cheats? If a woman, maybe if she catches her husband cheating, toti shingirira handitka, garira vana vako. So I found this very, I found that it got me thinking. I'm quite sure some of you might have come across it on social media, where people were trying to use the words that our community uses when a man cheats. So imagine that elder's wife cheats, or a man's wife cheats, and we are saying to the husband, be strong, pray about it, you just have to maintain the relationship for the sake of the children. And besides, women cheat, women are children, forgive them. So these things have been said to women, and for the longest time, a lot of women would stay for their children. But what we are noticing these days is that women are no longer staying for the children. They are not staying for that rubbish. I am using the words that I hear young women say when they come for therapy. They are walking away with their heads held high because they will not stand for that. We idolized marriage. Idolizing was not a good thing. As Christians, we value marriage, and we want to make sure that we are married until death do us part. But there are some people who stayed in marriages not because they were honoring God, but because they had nothing to do. They had no means, they had no resources to take care of themselves. Things have changed, my dear brothers and fathers, my dear males. If you are messing around, thinking that your wife is going to stay, you might be in for a shock. We've seen men fainting when they receive divorce papers. The women are doing it very smartly these days. They are very, very technical, very strategic about it. So they will discover something and leave you while they are sorting their lives out. and before you know it, the rug is pulled off from under your feet. So we have had men getting devastated because some are just having fun, and we wonder how you'd feel if your wife also decided to have what? Fun. Or actually, that reminds me of, the family seminars that we have. Usually we'll say, men, go on one side, let's hear your grievances. Women, let's hear your grievances. These are good opportunities for you to listen, to learn, and to, change and improve your relationship. But a lot of times, some people are defensive when men maybe, so a lot of the stuff that we hear from men, and I'll try to be as decent about it. Imagine that you are in a science lesson and we are talking about science, right? So some men will say, oh, I go out there because in the home, the wife is rigid, she's not creative, but out there it's exciting. Those people out there, they are romantic, they'll do what you want. And so usually it's the sexual excitement. There are some men who have complained that their wives don't bath, bathing. And they even describe the effect that the wife smells. Yeah, we have to say it. And don't imagine that this is another person's husband. Imagine that this is you, and if you've been bathing once, go and bath twice or 3 times. Same applies to men, actually, that the men have foul smell, sweaty smell. These are some of the things. So when you then come back to say, okay, so we understand your wife is rigid, she is not exciting. What would you do if your wife said the same of you and she went out there to find maybe someone younger, someone muscular, someone more active? What surprises us? Most of the time, unashamedly, the men will say these 2 words, divorce straight away, divorce or death. These are Christian men who will give a death verdict for their wife if she cheated, but they are free to what? To go and cheat. I don't know if you came across this. I found this very fascinating. So I'll spice it up to capture some of the things that we come across. So this one man, I'll call him Josephat, got married to maybe Charlene, and Charlene had always dreamt that she wanted a big white wedding. You know how people have dreams about their weddings. But apparently, this young man wasn't too keen on getting married, and he was specific that he didn't want the risk to have a wedding certificate and put his properties at risk. Right? You must have come across it, some of you. So this woman describes how she really wanted to have a wedding, but he wouldn't budge because he was scared of that certificate. He didn't want that marriage certificate to compromise their properties. And he was doing very well, maybe buying properties and having lots of money, buying vehicles, so have properties, put his own name there. I hope the property issue was addressed by the lawyer. So fast forward, this woman continued, getting educated and got a job, managed to be independent to some extent, at least managed to do well in her job, which is what every woman should do. In the past, we would educate you to become a good wife, and this would have worked if the men would still be, as the Bible commanded them, for them to love their wives. But we've seen people getting married, get a lot of money, and wise people, wise in courts, come and take away everything, leaving you. So sometimes the man leaves you and gets hooked, gets married and goes, and they leave you with nothing. So this woman worked hard, and she got a job to travel to the UK, I think, or to the USA, and she could travel there with her husband, with her spouse. And you know what they want for you to prove that you're a spouse? It's the marriage certificate, isn't it? And for some reason, this person now wasn't doing well. The businesses were, were broke, which usually happens. You get money and you start having extramarital affairs, and your things start to turn around. Saka, while Michelle, I said, while she was negotiating Kutiva Chati, she had asked the husband's relatives, please, can you talk to Josephat? I want us to have a wedding, but he's refusing. And the relatives said what? No, Josephat is an old man. He can make his own decisions. He's grown up. Okay. So now Charlene decided she was going to go to the USA or to the UK, but because they didn't have a wedding certificate, what were they going to do? And so our Josephat now says, oh, let's have a wedding. What would you have done? So she said, I respect your decision to not want to be tied to me because of your properties. And I think let's just keep things as they are. What has changed now? So he went to his relatives, and the relatives now, shame on them, were now trying to convince Charlene to please be the good wife and take your husband with you. We have our relatives who do not build. They want to solve issues when things are in their favor. But when there is need to intervene, people who are supposed to intervene usually sit on their hands and they leave you to struggle. Either you are struggling with children, you are struggling with your husband. Usually people want their hands clean. So in this case, this young woman says, no, Josephat is an old man. He's grown. He's a mature man. You shouldn't intervene to make decisions for him. He should take care of his business. And I wondered, if this was to happen now, if tables were to turn and your spouse became more empowered, they became richer, they had means, how would it be for you in your home? Because usually someone is, they have got control of everything that goes around the house. They control the finances, they control the cars that you drive, they control everything. So you might even plan a journey to go somewhere, maybe to go and visit the sick at the hospitals, and he just wakes up and tells you, no, don't take the Benz. Don't take it. Today I've got plans for it. So just wondering, if tables were to turn, how is it going in your relationship? How would you be comfortable? Would you be comfortable to not know what's happening, how much monies are coming, or how much monies are going out, what deals are happening, where the title deeds are, or to not have your name on the title deeds, or to not have your name on the vehicles, etc., etc. Okay? Then some of the challenges that people have, we get trained to cook rice, to cook stews and casserole dishes, and to bake. Some of the challenges that we have, people can learn those things. I quickly remember one elderly man, who stood up and said, no, God is the one who created the body, and he knows the body, so there's no need to learn anything. And I'm wondering, we get trained to do many things, including how to suckle the baby, Our adults who know how a baby should be fed, how a baby should be bathed, to avoid infection, etc., etc. You get trained on these things. And so it's important that people get training on some things, even professional training or even professional interventions, because for all we know, the person who is rigid, perhaps they were traumatized when they are young and they need to go through trauma treatment for them to be as functional as they should be. So the question should not be a person, or maybe the solution should not be someone leaving their holy matrimony, but to try and fix things, which we can always do professionally and learning from our elders. There's a lot of stuff that can be done. So for those people who are struggling, they are not happy in their intimacy, it's important to get help. There is various kinds of help depending on what the problem is. The first thing is to be able to talk about it. But you will notice that a lot of people don't want to talk about this. The elders want to appear holy, and the women, as you are growing up, you are taught to not like boys and not have sex. There's no time when you are actually then told, no, now it's okay, you can have sex and you can actually enjoy it, you know. So we continue throughout life not enjoying what God has put in place for us to enjoy. So I would say, challenge you, for those people who are married, find out from your spouse if they are happy and if there are any areas of improvement. It's important to talk about these things. We talk about going for holiday, let's plan a holiday, and we do that as a church, or you do that as a family. It's important to also talk about intimacy, talking about it in detail, and making sure that you are enjoying this relationship that God gave us. Okay? So another question says, so my story goes, I'm a guy in my late 20s, and I met a lady in her early 40s, and we just hit it off, and they've grown closer. I'm assuming hit it off means like getting in love. If you're in your 50s, we never used to hit things off, you know. So yeah, it continues. I know a relationship is a taboo in our society, but just can't help it. We are madly in love with each other. I quickly think of someone who is, 5 years married. This person is 20-ish, and the woman is 40. She's obviously not a virgin, right? But they're madly in love. Okay? Now, I can't end this relationship because, well, I'm in too deep. And it would be painful for me as well. At the same time, I can't come out to my family. They would literally die from shock. How do I navigate this issue without harming myself and the lady emotionally as well? Yeah. So harm has already been done, right? So I'm going to try and respond in different ways again. I'm hoping that some of you came across this. There was a WhatsApp conversation where a person, I think it's WhatsApp or TikTok or whatever, but this person said, I am in love with my boyfriend is 51, and I am in love with him. What can I get him for a Valentine present? And people said, you need to get him a BP machine and a machine to check his diabetes. Okay? Being 51, I thought this was very mean. But we are now using BP machines and diabetes checking machines, right? So if you are in your 20s, what do you want to do with a patient? To be honest, if you are in your 40s, 50s, you are taking medication for one thing or another. Am I right? Right? Either it's arthritis, it's BP, it's different kinds of things that joint pain. It's actually interesting how, the many things that we have to be dealing with. And you are in your 20s. Then, scientifically, when a child is born, the brain is not developed at all. They are just using instinct to suckle, for example, which is why they will pick a millipede, zongororo, and they want to put it to their mouth because it is the only, the mouth is the part of the brain that's the function, the part of the brain that is functional at that time is that, okay? They are not speaking because they don't have language, but as they grow up and they learn, they begin to acquire language, they begin to acquire a lot of skills. Did you know that the human brain is not fully developed until about 25 years of age? And the last part of the brain to develop is this part, the frontal lobe, is the part that controls, that is in charge of your judgment. We call it the executive function. So all these superior functions, decision-making, judgment, processing information, and making, strategic decisions, planning, reasoning, they are all controlled by the frontal lobe of the brain. And it's the last part to develop. So if you are in your 20s, that part of the brain is not fully developed. You don't quite know what you are doing. Is it a wonder that we have our adolescents engaging in reckless behavior? It's because their hormones are high, they are pleasure-seeking hormones, and so you find that most activities that they engage in, they want to have fun. It's because the part of the brain that tells them to delay gratification is not yet developed. Hint, hint to parents, as you are fighting with your adolescent whose brain is not fully developed, please remember that they need a little nurturing for them to develop well. Okay? So if you notice some of the challenges that we have with adolescents, hey, it's my life, I'm going to do what I want, smoking weed, drinking, etc., that recklessness, it's because the part of the brain which is supposed to be mature is not yet fully developed. So that's one thing. So we will not be surprised when you get to your 30s and you begin to see clearly what's happening, and you begin to see shortfalls about this woman. The issues that we talk about, the generation gaps, you notice that your adolescents don't like Mbora as much as you do. The way we love Mtakura, the way we love Chibage, our traditional food. No, they want Cerevita, they want spaghetti, stuff that we cannot stand. To begin with, our taste buds are different, right? So I'm not sure what's happening here. My suspicion is that this is a sexual relationship. It usually is. And when something like this is happening, I'm surprised it's the young man who is asking, but if older people are out there, either older men or older women getting involved with younger people, you are responsible in this abusive relationship. As an adult, you are responsible. So young men, there is no future in this relationship. You don't even know yourself. Take your time, get to know yourself, and then you can begin to make good judgment about life, good judgment about people, where you see that all that glitters is not gold. All right, the other question was the concept of repair in relationships. Some issues can be resolved by talking, but some people don't talk about, they don't talk to each other and talk to other people, and issues are escalated instead of being solved at home. Another question was, it has been difficult to deal with unmentioned triggers. Small misunderstandings are escalated to big issues. In my view, people should be more intentional in unlearning past hurts and realizing how they affect their relationships with friends and people around them. So communication is a key issue in every relationship. And it's actually a process, a technique that can be learned. We are all not born good communicators naturally. There are some people who are good, but a lot of us have to learn to express ourselves in a way that's not hurtful, in a way that says that sends the correct message to the other person. A lot of people, so there are some challenges that we have in terms of the differences between men and women. I'm sure you now know that women speak a lot compared to men. And by the way, going back to that person, women will actually mature faster, their brains mature faster than boys. So that even increases the age gap that we spoke about earlier. And we know that women or girls develop their language skills faster than men. They speak more words than women. Their vocabulary is stronger. And we also know that research shows that most men, when they are distressed, they withdraw. Most women, when they are distressed, they talk about it. Yeah. They will call their sister, they will call their friend, they will text, but the man is, Mascola say, if he's a Christian, maybe he withdraws into his quarterly and he's not addressing the real issues. It's good to read the Bible, it's good to read the quarterly, but it's important to get out and solve real issues. Okay? Usually, if these issues are approached very well, you can actually age together without even shouting at each other. But being able to express grievances and the other person hearing and coming up with solutions, it doesn't mean that you are going to agree, but you can have an understanding of what's happening. It is possible. So having a dialogue. So some of the things that we teach in relationships is to encourage you to listen to emotions, listen to facts, listen to the process. A lot of people will jump to conclude, will not want to listen to the whole story because maybe the story is not about the content, it's about the emotion. And perhaps just validating that emotion. Something like, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that that hurt you. Maybe that's all the person needs. And usually when you handle it well, the other person may actually then rubbish what they were worried about. It's okay, as long as you understand. But if you don't, it's going to come over and over and over. And we hear people complaining about women being naggers. She's nagging, she's always complaining. Step back and see if you have heard her, if you listened to her. Or we might find men complaining that my wife is not respectful, my wife doesn't love my relatives, my wife is this, my wife is that. And usually the women are out there trying to justify themselves. I don't understand because I've done this. I have to wait a minute. Just try and listen. Listen to the content. What is being said? What are the facts? Listen to the emotion. What is the thought behind what is being said? Is this person feeling disrespected? Is this person feeling that they are not involved in what's happening? And maybe they just want to be acknowledged. Maybe they want you to communicate with them. Maybe communicate with them first. Or it's in the nature. It's in the way you're going to express yourself. So it's all those things put together. But you hear people saying, I don't understand what he wants. You don't understand because you haven't listened. When you've listened, ask questions. Ask, and continue to listen. Don't listen with an answer or a response. When he says this, then I'm going to say this. Listen so that you hear what the other person is saying. And just in another aspect that is very important in communication is validation. Just validating what the other person has said. Oh, I'm so sorry. I realize what this meant for you. It doesn't mean that you are agreeing with what she's saying. but you are agreeing that he was hurt or she was hurt. That might just be what the person needs. And also when you communicate, you want to communicate the actual message. So a lot of parents, for example, will say, you never do your dishes on time. Never. Really? Like every time? 24/7? Every time? That's not accurate, isn't it? So you want to avoid those globalized statements. You are not grateful. You are never grateful. You are. So avoid global statements and address the actual issue. I'm not happy that it's now 3 o'clock and the sink is still full of dishes. That upsets me. No one can argue if you say you get upset because the sink is full of dishes. So speak about yourself instead of saying you are very careless, because then the other person becomes defensive, addressing the carelessness, and you've lost the subject matter of dishes that are full in the sink. Okay, so we encourage people to speak in I statements, talk about you, what's happening, and most importantly, talk about what you would want to happen alternatively. We usually talk about everything that we don't like. Hey, you don't close the curtains. Hey, you don't. So people know more of what you don't like and very little of what you like. And usually when what you like happens, you hardly appreciate. And people actually do that deliberately. You ask parents, have you told your child you appreciate what they do? No, I didn't. Have you told your wife? No, I didn't. What's stopping you from telling her what you appreciate? Because she will become big-headed. So you can go to town about what you don't like, but no one knows what you like. And yet, there is a rule of 10 to 1 that we use. Before you say one negative thing, give 10 things that are going well. Before you get to 10, usually that one thing that you wanted to correct is already corrected. Okay? Let me move on to the last two controversial issues. What would you do if your child came and they announced that they are gay or that they are lesbian? So in addition to this, I guess we can also address the issue of substance use. How do you deal with a child who is using cocaine, who is using cannabis, or is drinking? Sadly, a lot of children, youths, and even adults are using substances. They are drinking, sadly, a lot, particularly Christians. We were shocked the other time at an Adventist school to find that a lot of them have tried to use substances. Some are still actively using. While on that, before I forget, at Christian schools that we've gone to, we've been shocked at the levels of mental health issues there, including suicide attempts, self-harming. It's quite huge, unbelievably huge. Some of it is stemming from parents. We discovered that. So this one person said, all along I knew there was something happening between my parents. I suspected that there was another family. For years, we kind of knew there was another family, but we hadn't gotten our hands on it. And guess what? It turned out, so they were suspecting that their father must have a small house because of some things that they were seeing. And hello, parents, adults, children will pick these things. And they become, disheartened. They see you as a hypocrite. When especially you are a church member, you are an elder, you've been training them in the way they should go, but you are not walking that road. So this person said we got a shock of our life when we actually then discovered that we were the small house. All these lessons that the father was trying to hammer in them, and they were the small house. So people then struggle to deal with these things. Some of the things that children were citing in these Christian families were broken families. Families broken, children are staying with the mother or with the father. Sometimes they are moved. They were saying we get moved around like pieces of furniture. 2 weeks you are at father's, 2 weeks you are there and when you get to maybe dad's house, their family has, maybe they went out for dinner, they went out for pizza, they went to Vumba. You come there, you perpetually a visitor in either of your parents' homes, you know. So those are some of the challenges that people face, and they sometimes get depressed and they think, better I take my life. And some people say, I don't believe in marriage, and maybe not pretending and becoming gay, at least I am openly, you know, I don't have to pretend, because it doesn't look like marriage works. We get a lot of people who say, I will never get married, or I don't want to have children. The trauma that I've suffered, I wouldn't want any child to go through this that I've suffered at my father's hands. What do you do if your child comes up with these behaviors? A lot of parents, they say, over my dead body, a lot of parents, because to them this is the biggest thing that has happened, and of course they are having extramarital affairs, you know, it's not so big. Does that make sense? So they say, over my dead body. My biggest question to you is, this child that you are expecting to not be gay, is the child a Christian? Are you sure that your child is a Christian, right? I'm assuming you are saying no to it because you are a Christian. And we learn with deep sadness that a lot of parents don't know their children. A lot of parents don't take time to teach their children in the way they should go. So I always talk about this story. I had this experience when I was in boarding school, and you know, we were taught that caffeine is not good for your health. It will make you lose sleep. You can become addicted, have headaches, etc. So I decided from a very young age I was not going to take coffee, tanganda, etc. And that I was not going to take caffeinated drinks, that I would drink milk instead. And when I came back home, I started practicing those things that I learned about good health. And I noted that my young brother, who was in primary school, also stopped taking coffee or tea, and he would join me, you know, to not take those drinks. So I felt really proud that I had made a good impression on my brother. And wanting to get that affirmation, I said to him, so Welly, why don't you take tea or coffee? And he said, you know, because tea and coffee they are hot, those beverages. I prefer milk. So I was disappointed, but that taught me a lesson, that you may actually be bringing children to church every Sabbath, but they don't know why you are bringing them to church. They are not SDAs, they are not even Christians. You might be surprised that they like playing at youth camps, or they love Pathfinder activities. Nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the Bible. And so I have taken it upon myself each time when I stay with young people to make sure that I'm checking if they know why they are doing what they are doing, or why they will not do certain things. And each time I have not been disappointed in seeing that our young people don't know what they should know. I remember one of my sons, he was now going to relocate to go to England, a very obedient young man. And when I was asking this, you know, when you just ask, but you believe your boy is good, right? I said to him, Dagi, when you go to England, what's going to stop you from drinking? He said, Mama, you know, alcohol is expensive. It's a waste of money. So I'm thinking, all these years I've stayed with my boy, he doesn't know why he shouldn't drink. And I'm giving this homework to you. The parents will say, you don't drink here, you don't smoke in my house, over my dead body. How much education have you given to your child? Are you able to step back and say, I have trained up my child in the way he should go, and I'll be surprised if he does otherwise. In one school where we were doing awareness for mental health. One woman said, I've got a 14-year-old girl. I would like to find out when do you think is the right age when I should start talking about sex? 14 years and you haven't spoken about sex. What do you want to talk about? She's probably doing it already. You know? Do you know that even cartoons are showing sexual relationships? Not only sexual relationships, but even same-sex relationships. And so the Bible says, my people are, you know, they are not smart. Unlike the people of the world. People who are doing these things, the same-sex relationships, the substances, they invest in that. They will invest in even the cartoons. And I don't know if we have influenced any cartoons that are out there on social media, or we are just waiting to see things happen, you know? Or we get surprised when things happen. In cartoons, are you serious? Yeah. So when should you start? You need to start yesterday. You need to start from a very young age, teaching your children what the Bible says and what the Bible upholds. I would say my response to what do you do if your child comes and they say they are gay, you want to check if they are a Christian or not. But perhaps we don't want to wait until they become that. We want to be proactive to make sure that we have addressed each and every issue. We need to have a checklist for our children to say what are the fundamentals that they should know. Have I instilled the right thing in my child? It's not too late. Your child may be 14 or they may be 26. It's not too late to come back to the drawing board to make sure that you are instilling what this child should know. About abusing drugs, so maybe just a bit more on homosexuality. So the Bible is clear on how we should relate through the scriptures. We know that relationships should be heterosexual, and the Bible does not make any accommodation for homosexuality, either the activities or the relationships. Sexual acts outside the circle of marriage are forbidden. So there are a lot of verses, Leviticus 18, verse 5 to 23, and 26, Leviticus 20, verse 7 to 21. And so we know that a man is the one who is to leave his family and he is to be joined to a woman, nothing to do with men, or women. There have been questions on, some of the questions are, but I love him, this is how I feel. You know, we feel a lot of things, but we don't always act on how we feel. If you love your neighbor's wife, or feel attracted to your neighbor's wife, are you going to act on that? And it's okay. It's not. So feelings are not an excuse to disobey God. The Bible says, if your eye causes you to sin, what should you do? Plug it out. That's how serious the Bible is about sin. There are some people who biologically, sometimes there is times when biology actually goes wrong. The hormones, so perhaps you're bisexual. It's not clear whether you're male or female because you've got two. The female or male genitalia, you have both of them. And your hormones, because hormones between men and women are different, so perhaps you your genitalia is female, but your hormones are male. I'm quite sure you've seen this in some athletes, for example, who appear like women, have reproductive organs of a woman, but they have got hormones that are male. You see their Adam's apple is grown, their voice is deep, they have got broad shoulders, and even their energies, their testosterone level is high. So biology does go wrong sometimes. As you can see, I'm wearing glasses. It's biology gone wrong. Do I throw away my glasses and say, because this is how I see, my sight is short, so what do you want me to do? No, you go to the optician and you get that corrected. So that's my response to those challenges. If it is purely feelings, and if it is purely decision, maybe you've learned, or maybe you've made decisions, because I've seen that male-female relationships fail, so I've made a resolution, I want to have children, and you're making those decisions. We cannot make decisions based on something that is not right. And as Christians, it's not always easy, but the Bible tells us what we should do and says that God will not give us trials that we cannot overcome. And if we are struggling to overcome those trials, He asks us to call upon Him so that He can give us strength to overcome. Okay, I will close by just highlighting some of the challenges that people go through to end up abusing substances. And by the way, some of those women that I spoke about were in rehab because they were abusing alcohol. Some were abusing pain drugs, painkillers like pethidine, etc. Because of the challenges that they had faced and they had not been able to resolve. Some people will abuse medication because perhaps when they had a major operation, they then got addicted to that medication. Or there are some people who might be depressed, or they are anxious, or they are mentally severely unwell. They begin to hear voices, or they experiencing emotional pain, and so they are taking drugs to numb the pain, the emotional pain. Some people have succumbed to peer pressure and they got hooked. What we know is that there are different levels of addiction. There is a time when you are in control of the drug, when you are trying it out, but there comes a time when even the body biologically becomes hooked, and you may not even be able to stop by yourself, because sometimes family members become so distressed and they think it's easy for a person to just snap out of it. Some levels of addiction require detoxification. If a person tries, the withdrawal symptoms can be so severe to include even seizures or even death. So before you shout and shout and shout, first figure out why this person is behaving the way they are behaving. Is it possible that they were traumatized and they are self-medicating, which is not the right thing to do, but perhaps they actually need help? In fact, a lot of the people that we see abusing drugs are actually in need of help. They realize the damage that it's doing and they want help, but usually help is not there, particularly to our Christian friends and families who think that we don't want to be involved. This shouldn't happen in a Christian family, and we want to shun that. The position of true Christianity is all-embracing and praying for restoration, for rehabilitation, for acceptance back into the fold, and our spirit should be that of wanting to help, wanting to be there for the other person, and not want to be like the Pharisee who said, I am not like that person. Well, we are going to continue tomorrow. I hope that if you have more questions, please send them to that number, and we pray that we are going to address them. I want to just close by saying there is help if you are struggling. Usually, there is nothing that you are facing under the face of the earth, as Maingwenya said, that has not already happened to someone and they've successfully resolved it. It is The Lord's Prayer, he says, the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. John 10 verse 10, but I come that you may have life, not only have life, but have it abundantly. It is my prayer that we have life abundantly in those around us. Thank you.
Sangara Mwari notudi. Tinotenda. I think in the batikana nenya ye homosexual. And zekana paine vamwe va kambosangana experience yekupfimbwa ku messenger nevamwe varume. Ndakaita dambudziko iroro maningi. Ndaitozotumira ka voice note ndichiridza mere kuti andisiye. Munhu akakutsoma kudai achikuda. Mwari atibetsere tiri panguva yakaoma. Tinokumbirawo Elder Mutengo vaya vatipawo closing prayer yeprogram yedu. Nasi ndo wanga uri usiku wekupedzisira paprogram ino. Mangwana tichasangana kwakachena. Mwari vatiitire zvakanaka. Also we are reminded kuti padho apo tina pastor Mumba vanga vandipa mabooks, maquarterlies aripo ese evana vese nevakuru. So tibude tigoona pastor vatibetsere nemaquarterlies of all ages. Tinoimba kuti tichabatsirika zvikuru. Ko zvinorega tipiwe last prayer naElder.
Ngatinamate. Tenzi Jehovah Ishe tinokutendai neleseni yauya pakati pedu panguva yakafanira. Wese ainzwa, wese achiri kutiraya kuinzwisisa, newese achanzwa marecordings achatevera, tinokumbira kuti imi muatsanangure murimi. Jehovah mugotipa moyo wekugona kuzviimplementa zvese zvitaka tichidzidza. Mugotipa moyo wekugona kudanana pakati pedu nekunzwisisana mumacircumstances ese tatichitsanangurirwa. Jehovah Ishe tega hatingazvigoni totoda simba renyu. Naizvozvo vana wenyu ava umwe naumwe mupei simba irori. Mupei simba rekuzogona kutsanangurira vamwe zvetadzidza. Mupei simba rekuzogona kutaura nevamwe nekukansela vamwe. Mupei simba rekuzogona even in their own situation to overcome whatever we have been learning. Jehovah, watungamiri wanga vachitidzidzisa mai Machando, iwainavo vakomborerei mukomborere ministry yavo. Tichinamatirawo futi zvakare program yese family life ichiendera mberi mangwana, iwainayo ikomborerei ichengetedzei. Tanamata zvese zita ra Tenzi Kristu, iwainei vana venyu vakuenda kumba. Amen. Regai ndibva ndangotora mukana wekutsanangura program yamangwana. Mangwana pari kudiwa kuti tibate nguva handiti. Maona tine programs akanaka kudai so ne lot of content. Saka zvinoda kuti tibate nguva handiti. So tomorrow we'll start off with Sabbath school. And we'll start off with the lessons first. Tozo ita zvakasiyana siyana which you will find out tomorrow in store for you, which is well planned. Family life ichitungamirwa yakaronga vhiki rese, and it has been planning all these programs kuti imi mukomborero. But zvese zvakaitika imusipo manje. So I ask you kuti taurire vamwe vasipo pano, kokerai shamwari, kokerai hama, so that they all come and be blessed by this program. Mwari akukomborere, Mwari ave nemi.
Tinotenda The Rock inofana kuya kuzotiimbira tichibuda. Tingochekawo kana tine mavisitors nasi. Any visitors tikokupai zvipo zvenyu musataenda? Any visitor? Wonderful. Sangana Mwari rinoti kudini gogo. God bless you. I think if ane zvipo tigo pawo gogo chipo chawo tisati taparadzana. tinotenda audience yanga ichitiona online. Mwari vakukomborere vakuitire zvakanaka. Tisangane mangwana tiropafadzwe tese. Iko zvino tichaimbisirwa hedu tichiparadzana.
It's not an easy road. We are traveling to heaven, for many are the thorns on the way. It's not an easy road, but the Savior is with us. His presence gives us joy every day. No, it's not an easy road. No, it's not an easy road. But Jesus walks beside me and brightens the journey, enlightens every heavy load. No, it's not an easy road. It's not an easy road, but Jesus walks beside me and brightens the journey, enlightens every heavy load. It's not an easy road. There are trials and troubles and many other dangers we meet, but Jesus guides and keeps all, that nothing can harm us, and smooths the rugged path for our feet. No, it's not an easy road. No, it's not an easy road, but Jesus walks beside me and brightens the journey, enlightens every heavy load. No, it's not an easy road. No, it's not an easy road, but Jesus walks beside me and brightens the journey, and lightens every